And a massive welcome to everyone for the closing ceremony of the Port 2020, our fantastic humanitarian hackathon.
So first of all, a big welcome to all of our hackers who were with us working on our challenges, who are already together in our Zoom room.
And a huge welcome to everyone joining us on YouTube Live to watch the closing ceremony.
My name is Agnes. I joined the Port about 5 years ago as part of the organizing team first, and then worked as a team coach in several of the editions, and right now being one of the lead organizers of this year's edition. I'm really, really happy to be one of the hosts tonight.
And my name is Ben. I joined the Port 4 years ago, actually as a participant, but I obviously enjoyed it so much that I've been back every year since, and am now involved helping to organize behind the scenes and also coaching the teams.
So for the past 48 hours, we had 6 teams working on 6 fascinating humanitarian challenges. They have been working really, really hard, and we are together tonight to show the final result of the prototypes and presentations that they have been working on.
And we've had a lot of fun. We've had all sorts of digital get-togethers as best as we could, doing all this online. And we'll share a bit more about this later on. We've got a short sort of presentation to show you all these highlights. But first, I wanted to explain a little bit to you about the Port itself. So I think we've got some slides to introduce what actually is the Port, what do we stand for, and how do we work. And so the Port is all about bringing together innovators, having an impact on the future, and really working today. So the structure for this Port, our big picture, we're in a world, there are many challenges facing us. We know we have a very changing world, as we all know. Now, of course, our goal with the Port is to have this picture of a lighthouse. We have this image of a beacon shining out. We put a spotlight on a humanitarian issue. Now, the point around this is there are challenges facing us that aren't always well known. So we like to highlight this. And then our goal with there is to bring together people from all around the world, from all different sorts of backgrounds. And you can see, actually, this is, I think, for last year, but this is similar for this year. We have people connected from Uganda, from Malaysia, from USA, obviously from Geneva, from the UK. We have people from all around the world, many from India. And so we bring these people together, we collect them around what we call peers. We bring all these different scientists and engineers and humanitarians. We bring them together and encourage them to think outside the box. So by having this big mix of skills, maybe we can think laterally. Maybe there's a solution out there that hasn't been explored before. Maybe we can really rethink that problem. And so by bringing all of us together, I think we try to solve some of these big issues. And so that is the Port. We are a non-profit association that brings all of us together here, based at CERN, where we are today, presenting to you, typically in person, as you can see from this photo. And we have a lot of fun trying to tackle these big issues. And so Agnes, I think, is going to tell you what a typical Port would look like.
So in a normal year, we usually start with collecting the challenges. So you will see a timeline on the screen now, which starts with challenge proposal. This stage usually we do around February, March to start thinking about the topics and different thematics that we are going to tackle. We reach out to NGOs, we reach out to international organizations, we reach out to our by now quite extensive network also of thinkers and creative people for different thoughts that they might have to tackle in the later the Port Hackathon October. And then we do a participant selection starting usually around May, and with the selection process in the month of summer in normal years. In June, July, we usually do a team assembly where we put people together around these multidisciplinary skills, and depending, of course, of the specific technical skills that we need. And we do an intensive planning from the second half of, typically from the second half of month of August, September, and up to the in October. Now, this year was, of course, really special. We have been through massive adaptations, of course, and basically what we did is to compact this whole timeline into a period of 6 weeks in the end, where people needed to really quickly apply, where people needed to be extremely fast in the preparation period. And so what we would like to show as a first step, and then we will go into more details about how this year's actually turned out, is our space, our usual space with Idea Square. We are here in the amazing the Globe CERN innovation space. So just maybe a flashback to how our spaces usually look like, and then we are going to tell you more about what happened this year. So this year, in 2020, we do, for the first time in the history of the port, an online version of our collaboration, which of course required a lot of extra tools, a lot of adaptation effort from the organizing team side, from the coaches side, and of course also from the side of our participants. So what we are going to show you now a little bit is what kind of tools, and this is especially for our general audience, so the people who are following us on YouTube, on the webcast, what were the tools that allowed all of the teams to come to the results that they managed to come up with tonight. So first of all, Can you go to the next slide, please? The team meetings, including the opening ceremony, tonight's closing ceremony, but also the moderated sessions of the weekend when we got together to get some feedback, to discuss some practical points. We did it on Zoom, and we tried to make it as close of a physical get-together as possible. So the picture that you see on the screen is a screenshot from last night. We did a midterms presentation with a crazy hat version. So we had a lot of fun and a lot of laughters. Basically, we also learned that elephants in people's homes are not that rare. In some homes, we even found 2. We also learned that we have very, very different tastes for books. We had everything from fantasy to comedy, and from nonfiction to many other things. So we could really have a more personal touch of get-together. So after Zoom, which was the main meeting place, we also used Slack for collaboration. This is the place where people, where the teams got their working space running. I'm sorry. Okay, first, no, but let's go with the photo booth. The next slide is about one of our mythical tools, which is called the photo booth. So the photo booth is a physical box with a big red button on it, in front of which we can take a picture as many times as we pass by, and it gives a quote from a famous person, from a famous scientist, typically. And our amazing technical team made a virtual version of this, made an online version of this. And on the screen, you can see now one example that was taken with the digital photo booth this year. Go to the next slide, please.
We do love our mugs, right?
Yes, we do love our mugs as well. And so we did have Slack for collaboration. Every team had their working space in form of rooms. We kept on creating channels for different purposes. Some of them, again, for fun. We did have some fun for sharing food pictures in the virtual kitchen, getting together for informal discussions. And of course, we did have the working spaces where teams could work by themselves, but they could also reach out to each other in case they needed extra skills and help on any specific aspects. And then last but not least, we also had our now famous remotely green platform, thanks to a project from last year. So we will talk about this a little more. This year, it was really one of the keys to feel more together. So it is really a space which gives you hints about discussion topics and which puts small groups of people together. So we could really get to know each other, and the team members across the teams could also meet. And this would have been the equivalent of our usual water cooler space.
And so this, of course, is not the end of the journey here. We really like to think that the projects that we initiate here have a long road ahead. And so we have a few examples here of some projects that we've started in the past. We have had now about I think 70 odd challenges come through over the last 6 or 7 years that we've been running the port. And we find that we have a very high success rate for projects continuing. We've given them a really solid foundation this weekend, but we try to support them going forwards as well. And so I really want to say that this weekend is not the end, and we've reached the closing ceremony, but it doesn't mean it's the finish. What we have now is a bunch of prototypes, and we're going to see them in a little while. But for the participants that are listening, really think of this as how can you get these projects to move forwards. So I think we have a few examples lined up. So the first one I want to tell you a bit about is the Better Body Bag. So this was a challenge brought to us by the Red Cross. They had an issue that they had no reasonable way to preserve bodies that had been bodies of dead people from disaster situations like hurricanes and earthquakes and you have to preserve those bodies in a state that's later on going to be easy to identify them. And as typically happens, the original proposal here was about trying to keep those bodies cool. And as the project evolved, we actually incorporated technology from here at CERN. I think actually technology from the Atlas detector, which is, well, I'm going to point but you can't see it, but it's not far away from here. The technology there was to vacuum pack silicon detectors. We used that same sort of technology to help preserve bodies so that we can come back and then later on still identify them. And so this project is still going. It's been very, very successful. And I think this is a fantastic example of what can be achieved at this sort of a hackathon. I think, Agnes, you have 2 more.
Yes, there is another example that we wanted to show you called Ideabatic today. So it evolved in an actual startup. This used to be also started as a cooling project as part of one of the earliest, if not the first, the Port Hackathon in 2014. I think Kitty, who is a team coach this year, can correct me because she's still leading this project. So the idea of this team was to ensure the cooling chain for the last mile of vaccination transportation. So oftentimes when vaccines need to reach the target population, they get a good solid cool chain from the starting point up to the last big city or village. Where it becomes tricky to keep them cool is the last kilometer. That was the focus point of this team, which is a living project up to today. And then we have one last project, which we already mentioned, Remotely Green, which we actually used in this year's hackathon extensively. We still are going to use it later tonight for the party version. And it actually started as an environmental project, as a green project, as a green idea for reducing the carbon impact of massive conferences and regular big international conferences on the planet. And it evolved into something very tangible by today. And I think, as much as we can complain about COVID-19, it was something that helped Remotely Green even more because of remote work, because of all the digital tools that we started to use, all of us across the past couple of months. So that's another great example of success stories of the Port series.
So I think this brings us to the end of what we wanted to sort of summarize for you where we are with the Port. I think we have now a speaker from outside. Agnes, you want to introduce her?
Absolutely. So we have a talk about the humanitarian aspect again, similarly to what we had on the opening ceremony. This time we are going to welcome Rekha Farkas from UNHCR, who has an extensive experience with the refugee agency now, including the Geneva headquarters and also field offices, including Uganda, and for the past 1.5 years in Sana'a, Yemen. And she was with us first as a participant, then evolved into a mentoring role in the past maybe 2 years. And this year she's also back in the backstage of Pier 84, the feedback team. But also she accepted to give the humanitarian touch to tonight's closing ceremony. So Rekha, I would like to invite you to open your mic, and the floor is yours.
To witness the power of co-creation, to drink countless mugs of coffee, to laugh at crazy hats offline and online, and to be part of conversation around topics that I have absolutely no understanding of. Well, the coffee this year, depending on your actual location, may have been better or have been worse than the one that you could have had in the CERN Idea Space. The fantastic conversations really remained. Who I think the Port is important for, apart from being certain that all the organizations and the participants give their heart and soul to the Port, There are three distinctive groups that I think find the event very important. One is us humanitarians. Second is most of you who prior to this event did not define yourselves as humanitarians. And the third are those organizations or people who really benefit from the solutions that are developed and tested here at the port. So why is it important for humanitarians? Most of us in the sector work with like-minded people. We do have diversity in age, in gender, in country of origin, but we often don't have enough diversity towards other sectors or other disciplines. This makes life easy for us. We all know what the other one's talking about. We manage to keep a comfort zone in situations that often do not offer much other comfort. We often find ourselves in situations that require you to act, to decide, and to do things quickly, using and reusing well tested schemes of thinking and solutions. While in emergencies, there's often little space for thinking about improvements and changes. Events like this, like the port, are a great way for us to open up and show some vulnerability ourselves and ask for help where we may need it. The port offers this help through ideas and solutions from people whose second nature is to solve a problem that we often can't even articulate, or hack a system where we're not even sure which angle to look at. Why is this important for non humanitarians? I think you find many ways of using your fantastic brains for solutions that focus on down to earth and sometimes tragic problems. I think it offers you a way to open up to a world where solutions are often imperfect, sometimes quite messy, murky, or quite literally muddy, but do really change how people make more conscious choices, how they feel, or how they receive support. We're all humanitarians after all. So, why is this important for the people who are receiving this support? Off the top of my non existent silly head, I could think of 6 imaginary people whose actions may change after tonight. First one is Fatima. Fatima did receive some support recently from humanitarian agencies, and this was the support that she needed, but she had a lot of trouble getting to the location of collecting the assistance or had bad experiences at the collection point. The organization who provided the support did not know all of these troubles that Fatima had to go through. The second would be John. John loves shopping. He really likes clothes and he prides himself in making ethical choices. He recycles, he takes public transport as much as he can. He also wants to make sure that his choices do not contribute to practices that he actually condemns. The third person whose actions may change is Jan, the mayor of a small town in a post conflict setting. And Jan really wants to build a football field to bring a community together after years of conflict in his small town. But he's unsure if the area around the town is safe for building. The fourth person whose life might change after tonight is Martha. Martha is planning a large scale aid distribution campaign in a new emergency, but she's not sure how many people may need the support and how to best plan for reaching the population in a disaster affected area. The fifth in the line is Sylvia, who, as all of us, have been impacted by the COVID 19 pandemic. And she's dealing with the impacts of isolation and can't really find the energy to find the link for another Zoom meeting or make that 100th FaceTime call instead of real life interactions. Last but not least, one of the people who may benefit from tonight's solutions is Francis, who's a hospital manager that is about to receive a donation of medical equipment from a private benefactor. And Francis would need to know if the equipment that this private individual proposed is compatible with the standards that the hospital he's running has, and if they are good enough quality before deciding to accept the donation. I hope this overview gave you a bit of a taste of how many other humans there are on the other sides of the screens who may benefit, enjoy, and really actively participate in the projects that the port is taking forward. Over to you, over to the teams, and thank you all for sharing what you have.
Thank you so much, Reika, for this amazing speech. It was really, really nice. And really, one of the signatures of the port is the power of multidisciplinarity as much as scientific curiosity. So it's really nice to see this link. And just as a backstage piece of information, also a special thanks for making it so quickly after your adventurous return from Yemen. So it was really, really nice to have you on board in this year's edition.
And so I think this brings us now to the highlight of the evening. We have 6 amazing teams who are going to pitch for you tonight. I had to check if we had 6.
Hopefully they're all there.
Yes, right. Hopefully you're all online. So we have 6 teams who are going to present to you tonight the work that they've been doing this weekend. For the teams, just to remind you, we will give you 7 minutes to do your pitch, and we will be pretty strict with that because we have to get through so many of you. And then you have 3 minutes for some questions and some feedback. As well, just to say, we would like that ideally only one person will share their screen, and then we'll try and allow for 2 of you to have your camera on. And then at the end, once you've all finished pitching, it would be fantastic just to, if everyone in the team can turn their cameras on, and we'll let the whole world see who you are and who's been contributing to these fantastic projects. So I think we're going to kick off with Pier 84. Pier 84 have been tackling the challenge of feedback in conflict zones. So typically we have an aid organization will want to understand what they're doing out in the field and how it's being received, and there's a big challenge in then collecting that feedback. So the judges for the coaches for this team were actually Chris Alanya and myself. It's total coincidence that they're going first. It's not because I'm here. But yes, Pier 84, if you're ready, I think you can take it away.
Thanks very much. I'll share my screen. Cool.
Okay, so yeah, I hope you can hear me. I'm very happy today to present you the final results from the Pier 84 After Al Tawassul team. Our challenge for this hackathon was actually to try to improve the feedback mechanisms in humanitarian interventions. And if we go to the next slide, yeah, we can start with a practical example, try to understand what are the existing solutions for humanitarian feedbacks. So the UNHCR just delivered a report. They basically interviewed 3,000 displaced people in Yemen and seeking for asylum or refugees. But that, as you know, is just a minimal fraction of the total displaced people in the country. The UNHCR estimates that there are 4 million people internally displaced in Yemen today. And so the goal for our team was actually to try to increase the accountability of these affected population on a larger scale through what we call data-driven humanitarian programming. And yeah, if we go to the next slide, we can probably sketch what we mean. So usually in humanitarian intervention, we have a first needs assessment and a first program design. And then the humanitarian intervention is delivered to the population, for example, cash, food, or shelter. But then there's a very little chance, especially in conflict areas like Yemen, that we actually collect feedbacks from the affected population receiving this humanitarian intervention.
Ilaria, are you still there? Hello, Ilaria? Okay, I think maybe Ilaria is having some internet problems, so I'll take it from here. So feedback can be collected from an affected population, and then the data could be analysed, which could ultimately improve humanitarian program design and improve the way that organisations can assist affected people with humanitarian intervention. So that's where our team steps in, Afdal Tawassul, meaning better communication in Arabic. So what we've done is we've designed and we've built an SMS-based technology, so an SMS-based automatic survey software, which can reach many more people than traditional surveys. We hope through being SMS-based, because smartphones may not be widespread in some of the areas we would want to collect feedback. We chose to do this SMS-based rather than internet-based. And ultimately, we would aim for this to be a faster, cheaper, and broader solution for humanitarian interventions. So our solution. So first of all, I'd like to invite you all to send a text to the number on the screen. So please do send any text to +44 7830 311234. So please text anything to that number to trial our system and take our survey. So what we've done is we've built a software system for automatically sending surveys, receiving and storing the responses. So you can text that number to interact with our system. So the best way to show you what we've built is to give you a tour. So that's what I'll do now. So
Sorry,
this is...
come back, please.
Oh, hi, Ilaria.
Yeah, sorry for that. It's my internet connection. Please go on.
Thank you. So this is the solution we've built. You might want to use this tool if you were someone from a humanitarian organisation wishing to collect feedback from affected people. So this is the homepage of the tool, giving a quick overview of the project. The first thing you might want to do if you were using this tool is to set the questions for the survey. So you can click here to set the survey questions. Now, for the purposes of this demonstration, we've set some fun questions about bears, which hopefully some of you are interacting with right now. So these are the survey questions, and you can edit them and set them to whatever you require. And now, after setting the questions, what you'll want to do is send the surveys. So the survey can either be initiated by someone texting the number, or it can be initiated from the software. So someone using this software can fill in this form to send an SMS message, as described here, to a list of phone numbers. That will send an SMS message which will initiate the survey, and the user would be able to respond to that message, which would initiate the survey and send question after question, which are received and stored by our software. So once the surveys have been sent and the results are coming in, what you can do is you can use our software to view and download the results as they come in. So we can click this button to download the survey results here, or you can view the survey results also within our platform. So this is the list of survey results that we've gathered from information about bears. So back to the presentation. Oh, sorry. There's some things we would like to develop in the future as well. So as we described initially, we would like to extend this solution to Yemen. For the purposes of getting it working over the weekend, it's currently European based, and to set this up for Yemen, we would need to set up a server in Yemen to receive text and interact with our solution. We'd also like to extend this to have an audio extension so that users, as well as texting in their number, can also phone the number and say their message, because some of the areas we may want to collect feedback from may have some illiteracy. We'd also like to embed some data analysis and visualization elements into the software to make the results more appealing. And we've also looked into the issue of data protection and have put a plan in place for anonymization, storage and protection of the data in line with humanitarian procedures and recommendations. So thanks everyone for listening, and we'd like to open it up to any questions.
Thank you very, very much, everyone, and good job as well handling being online and having some technical issues there. That is standard when we move these things online. So well done, and great job picking it up there. Do we have some questions for Peer 84?
Directly from the team for those who are in the Zoom meeting rooms.
Okay.
I've got one just to maybe to kick things off a little.
Please, yeah.
My question was, did you focus on the Yemen geographical zone specifically, and did you incorporate the idea of scaling this up to other geographical zones?
Our project description was initially based on Yemen. Can you hear me now? Our project description was initially based on Yemen. To get it going over the weekend, we have a UK phone number which can be texted from any European country. To extend it to other countries is like easy or more difficult depending on whether that country is supported by the software we use to send the text, called Twilio. For some countries like Yemen, it would involve setting up a server in that country, so a little tricky but not insurmountable. But countries already supported by Twilio, the software we're using, would be very, very easy to extend this to.
And maybe a follow-up sort of question to that. How do you have plans for the privacy behind this? Because obviously you're collecting a lot of data. Do you have, what's your strategy there, or what are we thinking?
Anka, would you like to answer this question?
Yeah, we looked into the data protection policy used by Red Cross, I think, and we have written a statement taking into consideration the fact that maybe when collecting the information, we can pseudonymize the phone numbers in the data storage, so in the database, in order to keep the identity of the persons hidden. Yeah, I think.
Perfect. Okay. Well, I think that's about 10 minutes. So I will say thank you very much once again to Pier 84, and good job with the technical side.
Sorry.
Yeah, thank you so much for the first Pier. The next topic that we are going to talk about is human trafficking. So this is Pier 88. So it's a very interesting topic which started as an extremely broad theme, and then funneled down to something incorporating modern slavery, and more specifically the transparency of the supply chain for everyday objects, such as things we eat, things we wear, things we communicate with. So if Pier 88 speaker is ready, I invite you to unmute yourself, and the floor is yours.
Okay, again, I hope everybody can hear me okay. So hello, my name is Carrie Counts from Pier 88. And along with my team member, Clara, we have the pleasure to take you through how we want to break the chains of modern slavery. So today, 25 million people are held captive in forced labor, and forced labor is defined as any work or service.
I'm sorry to just interrupt, but can we get you to turn your camera on? It would be great to see who we have presenting.
Okay. So 25 million people in forced labor today. Yeah, can you see me? Yeah, okay. So forced labor is defined as any work which people are forced to do against their will, under threat of punishment. So this is all over the world. This is not something that's, it's even in developed countries. And there are more slaves in the world now than ever before. And 1 in 4 victims are children. So we want to end this modern day slavery. And modern day slavery is actually considered an organized crime. It is an enormous, highly complex web, and it's tolerated by uninformed consumers. So we thought, if we can tackle demand, can we reduce the supply and reduce the problem? So we conducted a survey and found that people, once they are aware of the issue of forced labor, they would like to do something about it, but they're unclear on what action they can take, and they're hungry for more information. And they wonder, can they really make a difference in something that is so complex? And actually, the consumer has more power than ever before with their purchasing decisions and their voice. And they are in a very powerful position to dramatically decrease demand by choosing products that do not align with their values and can demand that retailers and brands step up. So in fact, retailers and suppliers are increasingly sensitive to this power, with 92% of them saying that the main factor driving them to address forced labor was the risk of their reputation and to protect their brands. So digging into what already existed, there are many people and organizations working on tackling this, but with limited results. And on the tech side, we found 305 tech tools aiming to fight human trafficking, but only 21 are aimed towards consumers, and only 3 of those work, albeit on a limited scale. So the needs that we have identified that we want to tackle are awareness, action, and advocacy. So now Clara will take us through how we're going to achieve this.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Clara. Glad to be here with you all. So we named our tool, our solution, Unchained. It is a shopper awareness tool designed to prompt consumers to stay abreast of the ethics of the supply chain for their products. The aim of this tool is to be easily accessible, user-friendly, and easy to use, and empowering shoppers to take responsible choices. Our goal is to produce a solution to engage its users and inspire them to commit to staying involved in the fights to eradicate modern slavery, because now they know that they have the power to stop it. In order to better understand end users, their needs and pain points, we implemented user-centric design process to make the user interface as intuitive as possible and ensure engagement. This included user research, prototyping, usability testing, and iteration. Some numbers that stood out from our survey results can be seen on the slide. Knowing the interest in the topic encouraged us to look into our ideas for anti-modern slavery solutions even more. For our solution, we came up with the following approach. Firstly, there is a Chrome add-on extension that allows the consumer to get information at the point of sale. At the moment, we will relay information from the other NGOs and organizations. Secondly, there's a website with the background information and a place for consumers to get the links to the organizations that we get data from. In the future, we would like to expand this to a mobile app, which will give the same information in store. The aim of the official website dedicated to the project is creating a digital presence where the audience can find further information about what is the project and why it is so important to feel the urgency to be aware about transparency and supply chain, where to find the extension add-on and how to install it, how the tool can easily help to alternative and more ethical choices in our shopping behavior, which are the partners and organizations involved in the awareness and action campaign. Next slide. Are you seeing the next slide?
Can you keep going? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I wasn't sure if you could see the next slide. Okay, because I can't see it for some, okay. With the Common extension, the users will be given 5 main types of information about the product. When they visit a product detail page on any website, focusing on the ethics of its supply chain, these types were determined by the survey responses and preferences. As you can see, if the user clicks on each area, they are able to get more basic information and options to make informed shopping decisions at point of purchase. In the right side menu, they will have the ability to send a feedback to the distributor, share the information, and access Resource Center on the Unchained website. Testing feedback was positive. Testers said they would be encouraged to stay engaged and look further into understanding the issue of modern slavery. Their favorite features were a list of more ethical alternatives and indicator whether the supply chain involves modern slavery. They also said the interface would be accessible and easy to use and was consistent across the diverse crowd of testers. One common recommendation and request was to have an ability to track their purchases and calculate their personal ethical score. For in-store shoppers, we have thought of a solution that would allow them to get the same data by scanning a barcode while in store, based on recommendations and requests in survey results. Testers were excited about the additional ability to do that without having to go to the product page online. Currently, we have successfully trialed a proof of concept that achieves the following. When a consumer shops online for Brazil nuts, for example, the country of origin is identified and this is compared against our database. At the moment, this data source is from the US Department of Labor. Our code then returns the match, which in this case is Bolivia, and is known to use both forced labor and child labor to produce Brazil nuts. Thank you for your attention. Time for questions.
Thank you so much for PR88, for all of the energy that you have been putting in. And this is a particularly challenging topic to reveal all of the uncomfortable truth that we actually are sharing on an everyday basis. Credits to the team for the work that you have been doing, and credits also to the coaches that I failed to mention at the beginning. So the coaches of this team were James Jannings and Mona Lisa Arofino. So thank you for their investment as well. And I invite the other team members to turn their cameras on so that our technical team can put all of the team together on the screen. And I invite the other teams to ask the questions for team PR88.
If we don't have any questions, I have one, if I can.
Let's go.
The legal it's quite a legal, there's potential here for quite a legal dimension where potentially companies that you highlight as being bad and taking on employing slave labor, there's a risk here that they would sue you, I guess, or these sorts of issues. Have you thought about this potential challenge? Is it built into the system somehow, or what's your take?
Victor, do you want to answer that question?
Yeah, sure. So I guess there's two parts to my answer to that. First one is the data, the ethical ratings and data we're pulling is compiled by NGOs, government initiatives, and others. So it's not our data that we are using. So I think we are safe in that regard. And the second thing is that we actually are raising efficacy for that company to take some action. It would be interesting if they respond that way, but we hope what they do is they look at their products more carefully and then come back to us or come back to the other NGOs and say, hey, we actually don't have modern slavery products. Can you address this?
That you actually already thought that piece through. Was there a question online? Do we have time for another question?
One more, and there was actually one coming in. I'm looking at the tech team because we can't see them. What is the database used for?
For the ethics information.
Ethics information. Okay. So the question that came in writing was what database you guys are using for the ethics information. What's your source?
Over to Victor again.
For now, it's based on the U.S. Department of Labor. It is they're an authority that put this together, and they have many years of experience compiling this list of goods that have forced and child labor. That is the current step, but in the future, we obviously want to expand that. We've looked high and low for databases. I think there's a lot of potential there as well, room for us to grow, but for now, that's what we're using.
One question from my side, if I may.
There's also the sources that you use. There's also a risk that they're not as independent as they look like. Like you mentioned, a US database. It could be politically in some kind of political background to that. How do you deal with that?
Victor, database expert.
That's an interesting question. The way that they handle this data is that they accept primary sources and secondary sources of where there are reports of forced labor and child labor. I think it would be an even more concern if such a government agency is swayed by political agendas themselves. So at the moment, I mean, this particular data set, it would be trustworthy. That's where they have one of their laws in prohibiting goods from made with forced labor, and they're basing it off of this database. So I would be concerned if that's the case.
Thank you so much for the answers as well, and for the fascinating topic to Pier 88. And now I invite Pier 99 with Ben to come next.
So Pier 99 have been working on using drones to detect landmines and explosives in the field. It's a particularly challenging topic because there's a lot of dimensions you have to include. It's obviously a very impactful topic because if you can identify mines, well, fantastic. So I think if we have Pier 99 on the line, I think we can bring you in. Again, let me remind you, we'll give you 7 minutes. We'll try and keep you to that time, and you're allowed 3 minutes for questions at the end. And please, if you can turn your cameras on as well, so we can see you, that would be really great.
Coaches.
And so, yeah, if you're there, Pier 99.
Yes, hello. Hi, hello everybody. I'm Kasi from Pier 99. Our goal was to look at how it would be possible to set up a drone sensor system that is able to detect abandoned and unexploded weapons. This would then help Jan, the mayor that Farkas earlier talked about, to check if an area is safe to build his proposed football field. And after the goal is also that this drone then, after some post-processing, delivers an easy-to-use map to the end user. Next slide. Regarding the hardware, we had two approaches that we will present here. We have a turnkey solution, which will provide a ready-for-use system with a live thermal camera feed to the ground station, so you can live see what the drone is seeing, which would also make possible live weapon detection when you just fly over a mine. On the other side, this solution is very expensive and has limited field repairability, and it's not open source. At the moment, we would recommend a customized solution. This solution requires post-processing after the drone flight to detect the weapons on the ground, so this will take some time. However, it is far cheaper, it is easier to repair and adaptable for future needs. Now, Steve is going to talk about how we get from the drone footage to detecting the mines. Steve? So I will continue. So first we take the images with the drone. So we fly over the respective area. Then we have to link the drones with the positions. So where has the image been taken? After that, we have to clear the image. So we have to run some filters and some mask to to enhance the quality of the pictures. I see now Steve is there. Then we will detect the mines using AI remote sensing techniques. After that, we will convert all of these into vectors and upload that to a web app where then the drone clearance personnel can access the data. Yes, here we are seeing how this is all being made. You see in the middle part how we combine the location and the pictures together, which are then mapped out as a cloud point. And in the end, we can use Pix4D or an open drone map to create an orthomosaic picture, which is a picture corrected for geometry. And with that, we have a clear view of the area. So as this is quite a sensible part, we have to really take care how we do that. So for example, before the flight, we need some stabilization time so that the sensors of the drone can reach a certain temperature and that the images are not distorted. So during the flight, we have to fly very slowly so that we get good images. And then after the flight, we start with the post-processing.
Can you hear me now, by the way?
Yes.
Hey, brilliant. Sorry about that. Do you want to carry on, or I can pick up if you want?
Oh yeah, you can pick up.
Oh, great. Yeah, so thanks guys for holding that. Yeah, so as you were saying, we've decided to do some post-processing after the imagery as well. So we're going that into a bit of that in a bit. So if we go on to the next slide. So one part of the tool as well is a ground surveying tool. So we spoke about the ability to be able to go from the detection of imagery, using the drones to then geolocate and georeference and ensuring that that information is collected accurately. We then feed it into the AI detection tool, which will come on about next, about how we can update those models that we're looking at. And then once that surveying tool and the AI detection has gone through and detected the drones, then we have a ground surveying tool, which we created a mock-up using ArcGIS Online, which has the ability of being able to automatically update and allow the surveying teams on the ground to mark when they have detected or removed a drone. So it goes from the image detection all the way to the end. Now, one bit that we looked at specifically was the idea that the training data sets used to detect drones, the mines at the moment, are quite small. So the two surveys we looked at, one had 1,000 images, another had 100. And so we thought, is there a way of crowdsourcing this detection of imagery? And so there were two ways we thought of. One was citizen science. So the open source mapping community has a really good and strong ability of doing that. And so over time, that community's collected over 50 million buildings from over 100,000 contributors. And that data set has now been picked up by an organization called Map4AI. And that information has now been able to automatically detect buildings globally as well. So we're thinking potentially we could go down there. Also, we've got passive crowdfunding. So if you think of reCAPTCHA, so whenever you say, I'm not a robot, or you are clicking on a car, for instance, that kind of information is feeding these algorithms. So is there a way of being able to update these data sets? And that's what we're thinking about doing. And we set up a bit of a Git repository, starting to think about ways of crowdsourcing that training data. So in conclusion, we kind of have recommended a customized drone solution. So what we're looking at is open source wherever possible. What we're trying to do is a combination of post-processing in real time, because currently real-time image detection is not really realistic. Maybe when 5G gets more online and is more accessible, then we might be able to do more of that. At the moment, post-processing isn't really possible. even so, we can still deliver actionable maps from the detection of the imagery to entrances in 2 to 3 hours. But we need to be aware of, test and adapt against environmental conditions. So detecting in a desert will require a different model, for instance, from detecting in a slightly different environment. And then the final thing is the crowdsourcing of the mine imagery will support and improve detection algorithms. So that's one of our key next steps, is to look at whether it's possible to crowdsource kind of this imagery using potentially the mapping community for that information and inspiration there. And finally, it's to develop the end-to-end process. So that's where we are. So we can be reproducible.
Well done, Pier99. I'm going to jump in because you've gone almost exactly over 7 minutes, but well done. You handled those technical issues really well. Good job to Cassie for picking up, and I can see him bouncing around. I met him in Remotely Green yesterday, bouncing on his ball, his desk ball. So fantastic, nice. We have a couple of questions online. I think the first one here we have: do the satellite images work in all grounds, so jungles or forests, for example?
So I think that's kind of something we touched upon at the end, is that we will probably need to adapt our kind of models to be able to deal with that. What the models tend to do is look at the temperature difference between the surrounding environment and the mine itself. And we need to do a bit more research into that. There's quite a few papers out there already who've done this. But yeah, we will have to potentially adapt to the different environments.
Okay, that makes sense.
One thing to jump in on, Ben, is we forgot to mention what's also, of course, important is that this challenge was set for us by the International Red Cross. So they brought us this question, and it also answers one of the questions in the chat. The people that are going to use this tool are the people from the clearing units that are on the ground trying to remove explosives.
And I should just point out that I forgot to mention it before, but the coaches for this team, you just heard from Sacco there. He is one of the team's coach. So thank you very much, Sacco. We have one more question, and I think we have just about some time for it. It's quite a technical one. The question is the thermal capacity of a mine significantly different to the soil that it's in?
So that's another question, actually. So according to research that has been done lately, in general, it is, yes, they have quite successful results with that. So as long as it is actually not buried, it is on the soil, it can have a significant relative temperature difference compared to the surroundings. So yes, this is possible. The question that is left open is how, in case that it is buried, how efficient can the system be? And there's still a research topic going on, and yeah, that at the next step needs to be answered.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Thanks once again to Pier99. I'm sorry, Sacco, I'm going to jump in because we've reached that time, I'm afraid.
Okay, all right.
Apologies. But thank you once again, Pier99. Well done. I mean, we didn't see you all, but I mean, really good job. And I think we'll move on.
The opportunity to mention that, of course, time is not over. After the final presentations, we can still stay in touch. The Slack spaces will remain active, so we have got space for to interact with each other and ask questions and challenge and continue the reflections. But indeed, right now we have to move on to the next team, which is Pier24. So I invite the speakers of Pier24 to get ready. And in the meantime, I will tell just a few words about it. They were also working with image analysis. They were actually focusing on satellite imaging with the main goal of improving vaccine delivery, the efficiency of vaccine deliveries in mind. The coaches of this team were Kitty Liao, or a long-time participant, as well as Mohammed, who was with us actually from the US. So thank you also for adapting your biorhythm to the hackathon and the European time zone. And actually, the speakers are quite far away as well. So a big thanks to them as well. Please open your mics and your cameras, and you can start your presentation.
So thanks for the great introduction. So we're Pier 24, SatTrack. So the question that was proposed to us at the beginning of this was, how do we improve immunization rates by predicting where the vaccines are needed the most? And so the challenge. So to improve population estimates through automated building classification by type. So this is a critical step in achieving immunization. So you obviously you have information on a country level about population where people live, maybe on a regional level, on a city level. But to really get to the people that need it, you want it on a neighborhood level, understanding where people are living. You know, is this a home? Is this something else, a business? And so the place we targeted for this was Zambia for development. Because with Zambia, we have a lot of available data sets from the WHO. And then throughout this project, we used open source software as well. So there's a lot of things that can build up on here. So developing a tool, something that can be transferable across applications. So depending on the user's needs, delivering aid, vaccination, building up infrastructure, etc. And we wanted to have it where it could also be built upon to be used for different regions. So here's our solution. First things first is we have the satellite images from WHO, and they've done a lot of analysis already where they give us the building footprints. And we have some very small data set where we have the buildings that have been labeled manually. That's where people have gone in and looked at on the ground, looked at images, and identified if something is residential or not. So this works on the small level, you know, at the neighborhood level, but then to try to scale it to the rest of the city or the rest of the country, it's much more difficult, much more time consuming. So that's where we come in. Basically, what we can do is we can take this pre-labeled data and do what's called a feature extraction, where we look at this pre-labeled data, these residential homes, we look at the area of the footprint, we look at how many buildings are close by, look at the length of the building, the shape, and then we can feed that in to our machine learning algorithm, find a pattern, and then once it's found a pattern, we can then expand that out to the rest of the city. And then that way we can label the rest of these buildings using this information automatically. So you don't need people going in hand by hand and really scale it to a higher level. So now I'm going to kick it to Sam for the tech demo.
Okay, thank you, Branko. Unfortunately, I have some issues with my camera, so you're going to have to live without seeing my face. So here I'm going to give you a bit of a hands-on of what we've been doing. So now you should be seeing a satellite image of the world. But as Branko said, we focused specifically on Zambia. So I will zoom in a bit on the area that we specifically focused on, which is around the capital of Lusaka in Zambia. So as I zoom in closer in this satellite imagery, you should be able to make out actually the individual buildings. And what we're looking at here is actually a Google satellite imagery, but we have more high resolution imagery from the WHO, which you can see here. I will actually flip this back to the Google map satellite imagery because the WHO satellite imagery is quite heavyweight, and my computer won't like if I scroll around in that satellite imagery. So in addition to the satellite imagery, WHO provided us with footprints for every single building around our area of interest, and that's what you can see here in yellow. We actually have quite a lot of these. We have around 1.2 million footprints in total. But then we also have, like Branko said, a number of labeled footprints. And that means that for some of the footprints, we already know which are residential, which is shown here in yellow, or not residential, which is shown here in this purple bluish color. And the rest is unknown, shown in black. So if I zoom out a little bit, you'll get an idea of how much actual ready labels we already have. You see here that there are lots of footprints, but we only know which are residential and not residential for a very small subset. So in light of that, we first thought that we would do a deep learning approach to infer if it's a residential or not residential, but we went for something a bit more lightweight because we didn't have enough data. So we trained a model on this pre-labeled data, and then we used that model to classify every single footprint into residential and not residential. So that's what you can see here. So the residential buildings are in yellow, and the not residential buildings are in this purple bluish kind of shade. So if we zoom out a little bit more, we can see here that it seems to qualitatively work well. We have an industrial area here with bigger buildings that have been labeled as not residential, while these residential areas have mostly residential buildings, but also some non-residential buildings like commercial buildings and so on. So this works quite well in a city setting, but if we go outside in a more rural area, it doesn't work quite as well because we don't have enough data to fit to this area. So this is something we could improve on in the future. And in the future, we would also like to leverage the nice satellite imagery from the WHO, but unfortunately, we didn't have the time to do that here. So over to Branko again.
So kind of continuing what Sam mentioned about next steps. So we've got a basic framework here that's working. You know, we have basic data inputs, but then we can refine the data even more and improve the model as well, and get better results, better labeling, especially in those rural areas. So things we can do as well is the volume of the residential buildings, figuring out the height. That's also useful information if you want to use this application for population estimates. And then taking an even step further is road quality. You know, this is another thing we can calculate, basically using these inputs. And then, like I mentioned, the population prediction, where people are living, what's the density. And then you could spin that off further into providing infrastructure to these people, and also allowing predictions for where to put healthcare centers so you get maximum efficiency of delivering healthcare solutions and vaccines. So one thing I definitely want to do is I want to thank our sponsors. I mean, they've been great, both providing the data, but also just allowing us to bounce ideas off them, get feedback on the project, even the presentations and the overall goal. So the WHO, the CDC provided the satellite image data, and then the Gates Foundation also provided advisors. So it was really a great help for us. We really appreciate it. So with that, I want to thank you guys for listening, and we want to open the floor for questions.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Branko, for the closing words. And then the floor is open for questions. I think we didn't receive this time any in writing, so I invite anybody who has got questions to open their camera and microphone and ask them directly.
Hey, it sounds like a really interesting project. What sort of accuracies did you get with these models?
So for the one that we trained here, we had about 85% of accuracy, but it's a very limited test set as well to determine the accuracy on. And also you have to keep in mind that probably a lot of the houses actually are residential in the area where we had data. So the baseline is not 0%.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you so much. Any other questions?
I can ask something regarding the datasets. Sorry. Yeah, regarding datasets in the future, are you planning to take some or to find some somewhere or something in order to improve the accuracy?
Kind of just a general comment. That was one of the main ideas behind this, that we build a simple framework, and then you can feed in multiple inputs to it depending on your application need. I mean, like we talked about population density, feeding in any graphs we have about that data. Also like nighttime imagery, if we can get data that's fine enough, that can provide a lot of input about where people are living. Like we had some of that data as an overlay, but it's much too coarse to use for right now. So I think there's a lot of possibilities of things to input to further refine the labeling.
Perfect. Thank you so much again for Peer24, and also massive thanks for your beautiful collaboration with the international organizations mentors. And then I will hand over to Ben to the next for the next peer. That's Peer 51.
Thank you very much. So if I can ask Peer 51 to start getting ready to come on whilst I introduce you. So very in an overview, the Peer 51 team has been trying to tackle mental health in the current climate when we're all in lockdowns and working from home. So a super topical question. And I think their approach of seeing how they could tackle this is really interesting. It's been interesting watching their journey over this weekend. So I hope we have Peer 51 ready. Just a quick reminder, you have 7 minutes to present, 3 minutes for questions after. I can see both of you on screen, so that's great. And if you're going to share slides, you're welcome to. But fantastic. Okay, so Peer 51, take it away.
Thank you so much.
There we go.
Okay, alrighty, so hello everyone. My name is Carolina and we are Peer 51. We were tackling the problem of using AI to improve mental health. The general problem that we see so far is today we are living in a global pandemic situation. This is an age of social distance, having to keep our distance from our loved ones in order to keep everyone safe. Unfortunately, one of the byproducts of this has been an increase in mental health problems. And to gauge the scope of this problem, we decided to take a data-driven approach and to conduct a survey and interviews. 120 respondents, over 120 respondents were able to get back to us. And we were asking them questions about how the pandemic had affected their mental health, what were the main stressors, and how are they coping. So in terms of the greatest stressor, we found that social isolation was one of the biggest difficulties people were facing with, and social isolation was leading to other problems on top of that. And then we decided to ask them what sorts of coping mechanisms they were using or what solutions they currently saw for themselves. And so they mentioned two main solutions, one being the biggest one was connection. You have a word cloud there talking about people wanting to connect with friends, playing, talking, family. These were all things that you usually do with another person, and within their word responses, they also gave us this information. And similar information was confirmed in our interviews. And along with this work of connection, we also found that one of the second most cited experiences that people were engaging in was more working with your hands. So things like gardening, drawing, painting, anything where you're using your hands a bit more, and also stepping away from the screen. So our goal here then was to come up with a way to increase social connections, but also trying to enhance this with a tactile experience. So for more, I'm going to pass the floor to Lorena.
Thank you, Carolina. So knowing the data and the theory, the practice can be reflected in this early user journey video that we have prepared. During this difficult time, a lot of people, especially those who are living abroad like me or other people and living alone, are experiencing different emotions, which became a challenge every day. It can be like missing the family and friends, try to find motivation to work, or just having uncertain and unknown future. Not everyone is ready to vent or to talk about it, and that's okay. Keeping in mind this, we offer the possibility to have help or someone to talk with, establishing connection between people, giving a window of space and time, and sharing kind messages which can make a huge difference. And this is why we present Olana postcards, who give the option of connecting people through physically postcards all around the world. And to see how this is working, I give the word to my mate, Socket.
Hello, this is Socket. So we at PF51 have come up with this platform that we'll be able to, users will be able to digitally sign up for a platform on the platform, and then be able to exchange, give us the information so that we could recommend them a random person with whom we can match them. So the recommendation system works as follows. So the user signs up on the platform, and we take the kind of the nature of people that they want to be matched with, and then generate a random ID for both of them. Once that, and we, in the initial stages, we don't want them to share their physical addresses directly. So we share that random ID across of the match, and we ask them to send that, write that ID on their record. So this recommendation system is again data driven, and we also tend to use sentiment analysis to match the text data that they are giving us to match them with other persons. Once that matching happens and the IDs are exchanged, we then allow it then allows the users to send a physical postcard to their counterpart and then continue the communication. To see our road ahead, I would like to introduce Alberto.
What are our future plans? Our two future plans are the first one, first of all, we want to explore for potential partners and founders. We have already searched for some founders, and we found this fantastic program about open innovation for Swiss Post. And also we have searched for some partners as a global community of mental health innovators. The second part is the develop further and test alpha prototype on 100 potential users. So develop further. We have already also make some feasible analysis. And we are Olana Postcard, and we want to share kindness around the world, limiting social isolation through AI, enhancing a positive environment. Thank you.
Just thank you very much, PF51. That was really a fantastic presentation. I must say, I really like the name. I think I know you were looking for one last night, and it's great to see such a beautiful name and a beautiful logo. So fantastic. And I should also apologize because I don't think I'm doing a very good job up here. I forgot to say once again thanks to the coaches. So Nicholas Zanotti and Mark Melnikovic. I'm apologizing again because I probably said your name wrong. Anyway, PF51, do we have any questions online for PF51? If you want to unmute yourself and ask aloud, feel free.
Why did you decide on postcards rather than, say, photos?
So I think one of the draws, well, there were many different draws to postcards, but one of the things that's nice about a postcard is that it does require some writing, some text. And I think text going to and from someone is a very social kind of experience, and it makes you think about the someone on the other side, and also helps you think a bit about yourself and what you're writing down. So when we give suggestions like on the website of what sorts of things can be written on your postcard, it's also about, you know, how are you feeling? So how am I feeling when I write my postcard to someone else? And so one way to get someone to feel comfortable sharing is by me sharing my own experience. So that's also something that we kind of incorporate more in the website with certain tips and suggestions on mental health, how to support people, how to write a good postcard, and some fun there as well with some more comics. Also, the idea with the postcard, it's a more slower type of communication rather than doing emails or Zoom, and it's something that you can kind of take at your own pace. But in terms of photos, that would also be really interesting to share different photos that people want to share. And that would be great for sharing with users that are from other countries that speak a different language. So, I mean, you could share images at the end of the day, and that would be a great application. So that's a great thought.
I think it's great. I think what's amazing about your solution is we've got several people in the port, several different teams, I think, that have also looked at matching in different ways. So I think maybe we could try and connect there are several different. I mean, yeah, it'd be great to follow up with this, because I think it's obviously a topical area to work on. We have more time. We've got one question online. I'm going to just read it out. So the question is, how do you think people will feel if they get a postcard from an AI and not a real person? Maybe you want to, expand on that.
So I think one of the reasons that the AI is there is just to make sure that you're switching a person to a person so that it's not an AI, because several of our members were doing desk research on using chatbots and found at the end of the day that a lot of people, they start using the chatbot, but then they tend to lose interest and they just realize that it's an algorithm and it doesn't feel as much of a connection. Even though we have tested some chatbots and text analysis ourselves going into it, and it is quite convincing. I'm like, wow, very impressed. But I think you can start to tell at the end of the day. So this way you can have something that's handwritten and you know it's written by a person. There are other possibilities of maybe the AI sending things, but we wanted to make it sure it was a person to person kind of match.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Pier51. I think that wraps up 10 minutes very nicely. So great job once again. And I think we'll move on to the last but not least team.
Exactly. Last but certainly not least, Pier77, also known as the open source team. So they also had an extremely broad topic. This is a topic and a team which started actually some activity already at the CERN Web Fest. So what they are focusing, or they were focusing during this past weekend, was applying the open source philosophy for medical knowledge. So this is also a sanitary crisis related topic in many ways, because this past couple of months really showed how important it was to get reliable and solid medical knowledge in situations of crisis. So what they did is deep diving on that, and so I invite Pier77. Sorry. So how to ensure that medical knowledge is more accessible for people, and especially for people in remote places. So with that said, I invite Pier77, the speakers, to unmute themselves, open their mics, and the floor is yours.
Hello, guys. Thanks a lot. So should we start? Okay. So this is Sina from Pier77, and I'm here to talk about OpenMedX. So the current pandemic has shown us that medical research and development needs to be much faster and more accessible to everyone all around the world. So, and also it begs the question what we can do in order to prepare for the next pandemic or the next global or regional health crisis that might come up. So we think one of the potential answers for this problem might be in software industry, and especially in open source programming, because the idea of open source is that you share your line of code with others, and others can contribute to your line of code and help you improve it freely. And it has been proven that it's a really interesting business model as well, and has created a lot of interest from the academics. So we think how we can implement this kind of thinking into medicine. And that's why we came up with OpenMedX. The OpenMedX, it will be a kind of platform that will give the necessary tools to you that you can collaborate and put ideas about the projects for health solutions, and to connect with other people as well, and researchers from other parts of the world, and to share the result of your work with others. You can also discover about interesting work of others and maybe help them to improve that as well. On the other hand, we will try to give you education on open source, and also specifically for medicine. And why we think this is important, it's because it makes research and development for companies much quicker and easier, and they can reduce the cost of their products. And it also helps knowledge to be more transparent and accessible to everyone by using the creativity of the crowds to address problems that haven't been tackled yet, like rare diseases or low income settings. So please, the next slide. Thank you. So we searched back and forth to find a middle ground, a starting point. We reached to many organizations. We talked to a lot of people. We talked a lot with people from past organization and who are in the field. And we thought where we can start the foundation for our platform. And we found the section of medical devices hasn't been really touched yet, especially by an open source idea. And why we think this is really important, because medical devices can be really costly and there is a need constantly everywhere in the world for them. And also the industry doesn't really invest much resources into updating these medical devices, especially in places of low income. But there's one drawback to it, that it's a really highly regulated place, and we needed to address that one as well. So that's why we gone and created basically a mock-up of what we think our platform will be in future. And this mock-up incorporates all the DNA we had in mind for our website, and what basically needs, what you need for implementing open source into medicine. We have also created places that you can discover about projects and the work of others, and maybe go through them by details about the categories they have, about the places they are touching, about the cost they have, about the stage they are in. Is it just in early stages or they are fully developed? And you can basically look at how the community has responded to these projects. And if you find any kind of interesting project at the end, you can check them out, reach out to them, and help them even or contribute to their project, make it even better. So you'll find all the necessary details you need for any projects in the website and platform. We also have incorporated a part for connecting to other expertise from different parts and search for any kind of skill or profession that you might need to collaborate on a project with you, and offer them the opportunity if they will be interested in working with you. We also have tackled the part of education, especially in the place to address the problem with regulations. And we want to educate our innovators about regulations of medical devices, basically all around the world, so we can give them more contents to overcome this problem in different areas. So that was the basic wrap up of what we did and the idea we came up during this hackathon. And the time just limited us to get to here. But what we will definitely have for future, and what we will plan to do in future, is definitely we will try to make a fully functional version of our platform and make it go online and usable. And also we will try to increase traction from our end users, especially medical experts and experts from any other fields of science, and try to make a user-friendly experience. And we will also try to find a source of income and reasonable financial model for the platform, which is basically the struggle of every open source platform. And we can maybe offer tools like risk assessment for medical devices, which is really crucial in the broad aspect of it. And we will welcome anyone who's interested in our project to work with us. And in the end, we want to thank everyone who got in touch to us, responded. We talked to a lot of people, and also our amazing coaches and my amazing teammates. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sina, for the presentation, and also for being an amazing driving force for this topic. And massive thanks indeed to Sarah and Carolus. So Carolus, who is part of the PORT team, and Sarah, who was with us in the past couple of years already as a participant, and this year joined us as a coach. So thank you to the tech team who put you all on the picture now. So I invite the rest of the crowd ask the questions. In writing, we didn't receive anything. I'm looking at the tech team, not yet. So anyone has a question, please open your cameras and mics and ask them directly.
I have a quick question. So I really love the idea of the open source information. I think it's so important coming from academia. And so I wanted to know, this might be beyond the scope of the idea, but have you all thought about also translation? Because I think this is something that's really tough when people write in one language and they want to share in another language. So maybe thinking about maybe that's the next tackle for next year, I don't know.
All right, I believe definitely connecting different people and their knowledge from different places is it's on our scope. And if we can make some use of maybe translating various articles about in different languages to each other in order to make this connection or communication between them of information, we might invest time and resource on it. But for now, we're just really focusing on how to bring this kind of ability to make some kind of medical device and a hardware and go through all the regulations, overcome all these obstacles and make something maybe locally in your area, which no one has tackled or no one has produced yet. And maybe it's beneficial to your community. So that will be our main focus, but definitely if someday we will need to do that and we'll find it really, we'll make the case and we'll reach out to you for any suggestion. Thank you.
Cool.
However, we also dedicated an option which you can search for a specific language and specific location of that you are looking for, or you think it is more suitable for your project.
And if I could just build up on that, I think if you want to do something that is able to scale, it's best if you don't have to get involved in the translation yourself. So if you can use like the infrastructure, build it not as a PDF article, but on a website, you can rely on Google Translate to make it actually scalable and not needing our involvement to do that.
Fantastic.
I have a question.
One
Go
more
on, Psycho.
question? Yeah.
Well, it's more a recommendation maybe in line with what we're doing this weekend. Is I know that open source is very much driven also by a lot of hackathons that took place in the software world. So maybe to promote and to get driving force behind your idea of open source medical devices, organize hackathons to get a head start.
It's a great suggestion.
We'll be in touch with the team for next year.
That's why we're here. Maybe next time we will do all the hackathon.
Okay, well, I think we're going to wrap up there, but thank you once again to Peer 77. Really fantastic. And I think we should maybe have a big round of applause. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's always difficult doing
as
this in
many
Zoom,
as we are here.
but for all the teams, all the peers, really fantastic. And so that brings us to the end of all the pitches. I guess we should have had a round of applause for everyone following at home. It's a long evening, but thank you very much. And this sort of brings us towards the end. So I'm going to, I want to talk a little bit about the one last thing that we have for you, which is the fact that the port obviously is, we don't make this a competitive event. There is no winning team. The prize here is taking part, the learning, the mixing, and actually in the end contributing to a really meaningful problem, actually having a real impact on the world. So we think that's the real prize. But just in case that's not enough, we actually also have certificates for you. So I think here you can see an example. I don't think we have a Jane Hackaby at this event, but maybe
next year.
Maybe
Who
next
knows?
year, if you know a Jane Hackaby, we have her certificate.
It's Jen Doe for you.
But we will be handing these out. I think we'll give you a link on the Slack channel for the participants that you'll be able to download these. And that is an additional prize for you. So I think that just brings us to a few thank yous. Obviously, many people have helped make this weekend a success. And so we have a few thank yous to dish out.
Maybe I go with the first one, which goes to Peter Horvath, who was in charge of the amazing topic drawings that you all had on your team banners and many of the documentation that we have used.
And I want to say a big thank you to James Jennings. He provided the maple syrup that we have given to the fantastic staff here at the Globe, as well as the musicians that opened us on Friday night.
So the musicians, namely Tim Vernet, Noémie Calpini, and Quentin Possois, who were with us for the opening ceremony.
And then, of course, at the opening ceremony, you had a fantastic motivational speech by Sonia Anselin Panzani. And then, obviously, again tonight, we had a fantastic speech from Reka Farkas, who once again reminded us of why we do this. So a big thank you for them and for supporting the work so far that's gone on this weekend.
Yeah, and I would like to say a special thank you for the participants this year who came with ideas. I have to say that every year when we are reading through the applications, you know, the different elements of the CVs, the skill sets, it's always a big pleasure, and it's always a very colorful journey. This year was especially outstanding from the perspective of the ideas that were brought on board by the participants. So it was very, very challenging for us to narrow it down to only 6 challenges, and we wish we could have worked on more of those. So a big special thanks for all of the people who proposed different idea suggestions this year.
And I would like to offer a big thank you for all the support we've had from the various NGOs and the various international organizations that bring the challenges, that support us financially or in kind. Without your support, we really couldn't make this event possible. So a huge, huge thank you to all the different organizations. You can see many of them on the screen here. These are the ones that have helped us really for this weekend, but there have been a lot of support sustaining the port throughout the years. So a huge thank you to all of you.
Then we would like to also extend a special thanks to the Globe team who opened the space up for us, and we are pretty special, I believe. If the backstage informations are correct, there has been one internal meeting here, but we are, since March 17th, the first actual event happening in the Globe. And even though it feels very, very different, we are sitting with 5 people from the team here, so it feels really kind of empty in comparison to when we are together with all of the teams. So
you can see them all.
Yeah, exactly. You can see how the space actually looks like tonight. So very special, very different, but still we could be here in this dome of scientific research. So thank you very much to the logistics team who provided us this opportunity and who opened the doors, both on Friday evening and on Sunday evening tonight.
And you can't see the chap holding the camera right now, as well as the other 2 over here. But a big thank you to Gluonet, who helped with supported this event with their hardware to run this live stream and all the technology that goes on behind that. Really, hacking the hack has been our motto. So thank you very much to Gluonet for all your help.
And of course, also. I am taking over from Ben because it would have been a little bit self-praising otherwise, but thanks to Remotely Green. So it was amazing to see your journey since last year. In only 1 year, the progress that has been made by the platform was really, really impressive. And thanks for making our get-together so much fun.
It's been fantastic to play with it. And I think we have just a few photos just now to say thank you to or a slide or 2, if I'm not mistaken, to say thank you to our fantastic coaches. I think we often forgot them when we were going through the peers. So, but really, thank you so much for helping the teams. Thank you so much for all your insights, for connecting us. Really fantastic. Thank you very much.
I would like to maybe extend again a special word to Kitty and James, who accepted to be the coach of the coaches, so who actually ran a presentation, a full evening talk basically about the process, the tools we were going to be using, some tips from their previous years of experience of coaching. And to these 12 people who were behind the teams, the 6 teams this year, they really were a key to the success of the Port 2020.
Perhaps this is a good chance to just say, you see a lot of people that take part and then come back as a coach. If there's anyone taking part this year that wants to get more involved, please get in touch, because we always love bringing people into the team. So please do get in touch. And I think, then lastly, it's worth a big thank you to all of the organizing team, everyone that's here. There are many, many people that you haven't seen on camera, but here we go. You see everyone here. So thank you to all the other organizers, and I think without your ongoing work, we couldn't make these events what they are. So
and we really wish we could be standing on the stage together behind us, as we usually do, hugging each other.
Virtual hug.
Yeah, but a huge, massive virtual hug to each and every one of you.
And that, I think, brings us towards the end of tonight's event. So we have, of course, after this live stream, we have another chance to meet each other on Remotely Green. We have, I think, a short presentation, a short slideshow that's just going to play for the last 5 minutes to just bring out the highlights of what's been going on, all the different photos that we've been collecting on the photo booth. But otherwise...
Yeah, a few pictures from previous year's parties, so that we start going into party mode, but also a few of them from this year, from our Zoom meetings, from the photo booth, with a little bit of cheer up music for a run up, and in about 10 minutes even,
yeah, about 10 minutes we'll be
in
starting.
about 10 minutes we will meet again on Remotely Green with a special edition.
That's right, party edition. So
thank you so much to everyone for being part of this year, and big virtual hugs to everyone. Thanks for all the audience who followed us, for the topics, the candidates, the coaches, all the list that we have just shared with you. Cheers from the team in the globe.
Bye.
See you next year.
Keep in touch.